Wonderful to see you. Thank you for joining us today.
Dana, greetings from a very busy Washington, D.C. I won't say we're necessarily efficient, but we're busy.
I think you actually summed it up pretty good. First of all, I'd love to get your thoughts on what we heard from this cabinet meeting in regards to this $1 trillion versus $2 trillion. Look, we know that $2 trillion was an incredibly ambitious goal here. Do you think that the way it was discussed in this cabinet meeting is a bit of an admission that this goal is incredibly ambitious, maybe impossible?
Well, I didn't hear the whole cabinet meeting dialogue. However, I can tell you, I do think that it's possible. With what the DOGE group is finding, of course, we don't know what those numbers are going to be. But if you take some other things into consideration, if we truly do embrace things like welfare work requirements and do some of the short-term things like the getting rid of the subsidies on electronic vehicles, student loan stuff, which is all on the table, I do think there's a possibility to get there. And if you take that and then you put a reasonable path of growth on it, then for the first time in my career, maybe in my life, we're dealing with a budget where the increase in spending is truly offset or theoretically offset by the reductions in the growth in the economy. So that's what we're kind of excited about and trying to work toward.
Offset by growth in the economy. So let me tell you what Elon Musk said today in this meeting. He said that if they want to cut $1 trillion by 2026, it requires saving $4 billion every day from now until the end of September. And he went on to say that we can do it, but you know that there is concern with that kind of number, despite what you laid out here. How do you get to that number without making cuts to things like Medicaid?
Well, the federal workforce is absolutely massive. And we don't have any idea how many dead people we're paying Social Security to. I've heard numbers in the millions. And if that's really true and we get a handle on that, which frankly we should be able to do, then that's a tremendous number potentially. And you mentioned the healthcare component. What if, with Medicaid, for example, what if we didn't cut it? What if we just started taking the appropriate steps towards making sure that the eligibility requirements were fulfilled? That could be an astoundingly big number just by validating eligibility. So, Kana, I got to be optimistic here. And the reason I am in part is because it's truly being looked at. And you know what? For the solvency of the economy, for our future, given the current circumstances with the debt, all that, it needs to be looked at. And it is. I realize people have concerns that in some of the ways it's being done, but at least it's being done. And that's really positive for those of us who are kind of budget hawks.
Well, and that is the campaign promise that we know that he made. But we also know that this budget deal and what was voted on last night, this is just a stepping stone, right? We also know that Senate Majority Leader John Thune said yesterday that the House budget vote, again, this first step in what's going to be a long process. He also said it's not going to be an easy one. And so if these two bills in the House and the Senate look completely different, we know the president says he likes elements in both of them. What, in your mind, are House Republicans willing to concede on?
Well, first of all, I think that, and I have had some correspondence with Senator Thune, and he's made it clear internally that, hey, look, the House kind of needs to be the driver on this because our margins are smaller, with the theory that if we get it through the House, he's got a good shot of getting it through the Senate. And so that's generally the strategy. And I think it's a valid one. Yes, you're right. Right now, we got one bill in the House. We have two bills in the Senate. But look, if we can get to a bottom line end goal here, frankly, I don't know that it matters that much as long as we can move forward. House is the gating item right now. You saw the vote last night on the framework, 217, 215. And so we're the ones who need to be the focal point, and I think the leadership on both sides recognize that.
All right.